Hi boys and girls, welcome to another revising lesson for your personal narrative. Today's focus goal is I can pull in new scenes from the past and future to help get across what my story is really about. So today we're going to continue looking at a sixth grader's personal narrative that came from her notebook, which she had left with me last year. So if you remember, the heart of her story was realizing my dad would always be there for me despite my bad choices. So I pulled this scene in particular out of her personal narrative, and this is a moment where her father is about to discover her and her sister doing something that they most certainly are not supposed to be doing. I aimed the hose at Allison's feet and we laughed as she hopped all over the garden. The spray pelted the side of the house and dug into the soft dirt of the flower beds. I felt a twinge of guilt knowing Dad had just planted those. I immediately shrugged the feeling off. Why was he always so picky about everything anyway? Allison screamed, "Get me, you can't get me." Unable to resist, I chased her with a stream of water, both of us zigzagging through the flower bed. Suddenly, Allison changed tactics and ran at me, knocking the hose from my hands. First we collided hard and then ricocheted off of each other, both falling to the ground, half moaning, half giggling. Cold, muddy water seeped right through my clothes. I sat up quickly, startled to realize that the garden was more giant mud puddle than dirt. Then my eyes fell to the scattered flower petals. They were everywhere, except where they were supposed to be, on the heads of the flowers. "Allison, stop, don't move," I hissed. "Look what we've done. Dad's going to kill us." "No, Dad's going to kill me." I could hear my voice rising with panic. Allison and I scrambled up, and I frantically began to push uprooted broken plants back to their spots. I was holding a handful of the purple petals, my dad's favorite, when he turned the corner. He was holding a box of plants, smiling broadly in my direction. From his bouncy walk, I could tell he was excited to show me his new plants. So I stopped here because initially this is where the student stopped her writing. And we started doing some conferencing about what was about to happen at this moment. Her father was just about to round the corner and discover what her and her sister had done. So we started doing some work and thinking about memory moment. And I kind of questioned her and said, is there another time that something important was maybe going on at this spot? Or is there another memory you can draw on that has to do with this spot between you and your father? And she started doing some thinking and was able to tell me, yeah, me and my dad always spend time in the garden together. And there's a lot of memories of us, one of us coming around the corner, and she said it was always me that was walking around the corner and going to help him or talk to him or do something. And so when she went back to write that day, she decided to add in this little memory moment. As my dad closed the gap between us, I thought about how I was always the one running around that corner, running to the garden to help my dad. My mind drifted back to much earlier in the spring when I had turned the same corner in a storm of hurt and tears, crying so hard that I could barely see my dad. He had dropped the heavy stone he was holding to run to me and wrap me in his arms to comfort me after my run-in with neighborhood bullies. Only after I had totally regained my calm did my dad plunk himself down on the grass and ease off his tennis shoe, revealing the toenail he'd smashed when he had dropped the stone. When I had gasped at the sight, Dad had stopped grimacing and had quickly put his arm back around me to joke, "You're worth it. Wait till those bullies see how tough your dad is." I squeezed the crushed purple petals in my hand, afraid to watch his friendly greeting dissolve into anger and disappointment. And why shouldn't it? I chastised myself. He trusted you to be in charge, and look at what you did. A few feet from me, Dad stopped suddenly. As he put the crate of new plants, down heavily, his eyes traveled over the ruined flower bed and then stopped on me. I was expecting to see fury etched into his face, but instead it was a look of bewilderment and, even worse, hurt. "Dad," my voice broke as I tried to apologize. "I'm sorry. I'll fix it, I promise." Dad swallowed and nodded. I could tell he was having trouble finding his words. He nodded again, still silent, and pulled me into his arms. So you can see up here, this paragraph is her memory moment. And she takes us in by first thinking through some other times with this particular spot for her. And then into one memory in particular, right, when she starts with, "My mind drifted back." And she chose this memory because it quite literally shows her father dropping everything for her. He literally drops a stone on his foot because she's in need, and that's how important she is to him. And so this goes right back to her heart of the story of showing that her dad really will always be there for her no matter what may happen. And it ties in nicely when we come back into the action here when they're about to have a more serious conversation about what her and her sister did. So for today, you're going to reread your personal narrative and think about what your story is really about. Think about the heart of your story. And then I want you to go ahead and put a little star at a scene where you think you might be able to add in a memory or moment. Think about maybe if you've ever experienced something that you're experiencing at that moment, or have you had the similar feeling to a feeling that you're having in the story at that moment? Or you may even want to think, just is there another moment from your past that kind of shows things before a big change that was about to happen? If you find a spot like that, put your star and start to draft in a new memory. Think about some of the keywords we talked about for memory moment and try to fit this new idea in so that it ties back to your heart of the story. Okay, good luck.